Picture two people holding the exact same conviction. If you ask them how sure they are, they both give you the exact same answer, 100%. In statistics, we typically measure this kind of confidence using something called Bayesian credence. It treats human conviction as a single one-dimensional number ranging from 0 to 1. You check the score, and both observers look identical. Then reality pushes back. Both observers are hit simultaneously with severe social pressure and a flood of newly discovered contradictory evidence. The first observer immediately folds. Under the stress, that supposedly ironclad certainty evaporates, and they abandon the belief completely. The second observer doubles down. They aggressively entrench themselves, ignoring the new data and defending their position, even though the evidence proves them objectively wrong. A flat, one-dimensional metric captures isolated confidence in a vacuum. It entirely misses the structural stability of a belief when it collides with a hostile environment. To accurately predict how a conviction will survive contact with the real world, we have to stop looking at the mind as a flat scale and start mapping it as a four-dimensional architecture. This brings us to a specific theoretical framework designed to measure that exact architecture: the cognitive coherence formula, or B of OC. This model discards the single variable probability score. Instead, it unfolds human conviction into a complex configuration of four distinct interconnected forces. Those four load-bearing pillars of cognitive stability are attention, emotion, consistency, and experience. A belief exists as a fragile, active configuration that must maintain continuous equilibrium across all four of these dimensions to survive reality. The first variable is F, or attentional focus. This measures how concentrated cognitive resources are on tracking an idea without their attention scattering. Second is E, emotional coherence. This tracks how well an observer's emotional state aligns with their cognitive commitment, avoiding internal dissonance or conflicting feelings. Third is sigma, representing internal contradiction. This is the entropy of doubt held regarding the idea. Because we are measuring stability, the formula inverts this variable as 1 minus sigma. This means low internal doubt actively pushes the stability score upward, while doubt rises shrinks the total value down toward 0. Finally, we have lambda, empirical reinforcement. This variable captures the accumulated, confirmatory past experience that backs up and supports the current configuration. Observers do not apply these forces equally. The formula uses weighting to account for an individual's specific environment, assigning priority depending on the context. A scientist operating a clean experiment maximizes their focus. A chess player trapped in time trouble relies heaviest on emotional alignment under pressure. A journalist verifying an anonymous source maximizes their reliance on empirical reinforcement. Mental stability requires different structural supports to withstand different environmental pressures. Looking at these four quantities, a natural mathematical question arises. Why not simply add them together to get a total confidence score? The formula operates as an AND gate. The variables are entirely multiplicative. This creates a death-blow mechanic. If an observer has perfect focus, but empirical grounding drops to absolute 0, the representation has nowhere to attach. The configuration yields 0. In an additive system, massive emotional conviction could theoretically make up for having 0 factual experience. But a perfect signal in a perfectly chaotic context gives you nowhere to attach your representation, leaving the observer with nothing to hold on to. Cognitive coherence requires every input to be active jointly. It is a tight, zero-sum ecosystem where a single point of failure breaks the entire structure. You can test this framework in the real world using a 30-second napkin estimation to score any specific claim. You assign each variable a score from 0 to 1 by asking 4 specific questions. For focus, how well does this match reliable, independent sources? For emotion, do you hold other beliefs that contradict this one? For sigma, how much of the context is noise versus signal? And for lambda, how rich is the raw data backing the claim? Applying these 4 dimensions solves the paradox of our 2 initial observers, who shared identical levels of stated certainty, but reacted entirely differently under duress. The first observer possessed high focus, but remarkably low emotional coherence. They processed the information deeply, but their internal dissonance made the belief highly vulnerable to external social pressure, causing the collapse. The second observer had high emotional coherence, but very low focus. Their emotional system heavily reinforced the commitment, but their lack of attention blinded them to the new data, leading them to aggressively defend a falsehood. Traditional probability models are completely blind to this divergence because they compress 4 distinct, measurable behavioral dimensions into a single flat number. Beliefs exist as active configurations, held together by an unbroken chain of attention, emotion, internal consistency, and experience. Breaking a single link reduces the conviction to 0.